Alright, so in this video I'll try to teach you a little more about formulas. Let's get back to our previous formula. So if we try to do a basic formula that will calculate quantity multiplied by price for each product, then we'll go to this cell. We'll start with our equal sign, and then I'm going to do B2 multiplied by, which is our asterisk, by C2. I'm going to hit enter. That will give me my total. Now I'm going to drag that formula down to calculate it for every single item. So I'm going to click on this cell for this formula. So to drag the formula, we can either go to this corner, see this little cross shows up, and we click and drag down. That works. I'm going to undo that. Another way to drag our formula is to go to the same corner and just double click in that box, and that will drag too. That double click only works when there is a column on the left. So see, it's matching the size of this price column by me double clicking in this corner. Either way, we drag the formula and it works. Now the question is, why does it actually work? So if we go back and look at this formula, so this is the way it's going to work. So we have cell references B2 multiplied by C2. Now, when you move this formula down by dragging the formula down one, all references in the formula move in that direction, which means by references, I mean B2 and C2. So if we look at B2, that's this cell. If we move B2 one down, it will be B3. If we move C2, which is the next reference one down, it will be C3. So if I hit escape, so we move one down by dragging, which means our references moved one down, so B3 times C3. And so it goes. So we move 2 down, C2 down, B4, 2 down, C4, and it works. So that's great. I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to add a column here. Right click, insert one left. Perfect. Maybe make this look the same. I'm going to select this area, use paint format, click in this cell to replicate this format. Now I want to calculate some discount. So I want to apply 5% discount to all of these totals. Let me create my column. Okay, so now I need to calculate 5% discount for all of these totals. This is a percentage, right? The percentage, that's 5%. So you just go and type in a cell 5%. That will be 5%. Now this is formatted a little different than the one on top. So if I wanted the same formatting, I can go here and click format as percent, and I'm going to get 2 decimal points extra. Now you could cut decimal points or add decimal points by doing this 0, 0 left and right, but that's not really the point. The question is, what's actually in the cell? Because when you have a format applied to the cell, that doesn't actually show you what's originally in the cell. So if I open under this more format, see right now this is under percent format. So if I wanted to see what number is in that cell, I would go under number and see the number is 0.05. So while I was typing 5%, the number that's going to be used for calculation is going to be this number 0.05. So let's keep this in mind. So this 5% is 0.05. So we go here. I'm going to start with equal sign. So we need this 5600, which is D2. And I'm going to multiply that, which is that star or asterisk, by this 5%. So that's G and 3. So G3 to multiply it by this. And the reason we multiply is because we're really multiplying not by this, which is the formatted cell. We're multiplying by underlying number, which is 0.05. So we're multiplying 5600 by 0.05, which would give us 5%. So I hit enter. See, 280. That's 5% of this number. I'm going to delete this. We don't need that there. So that's good. So if I wanted this to be 7%, if I change this to 7%, this will recalculate. Obviously, I'm going to change it back to 5. Now I want this calculation done for all of these. So if I go to this corner on the right and drag it down, see, I'm getting a bunch of zeros. It doesn't work. So the reason it doesn't work is because of the same principle that I was just talking about a second ago. So if we look at this formula, the formula is D2 multiplied by G3. So cell references we have in this formula is D2 and G3. So if I move one down, D2 reference is going to move one down. So D2 is going to go one down. It's going to go to D3, which is this 4,690 number. But at the same time, G3, which is this cell, is also going to move one down. So G3 is going to become G4. So if I hit escape and I look what's in the cell below, see what it is this D3 multiplied by G4. So D3 is this laptop total, which is good. But now we're multiplying instead of 5% by empty cell. And we're getting a 0. And then if I move 2 down, well, this moved 2 down to this number. And this also moved 2 down from 5% to like 2 cells down, which is again blank. So how do we fix this problem? What you don't want to do is go to each cell and start correcting this. So you don't want to do this because that's going to take a lot of time. So what we're going to do to make this work, we're going to go back to our first original formula and we're going to change it a little bit to make that work. So I'm going to go and open this formula on top. Now this formula is D2 multiplied by G3. And what was happening before when I was moving this down, this discount was starting to move from 5% to this empty cells. And that was this G3 cell. I do not want that to move. So what I do, I just go and add dollar signs. $1 for G column, $1 for row 3. So $G, $3 instead of just G3. After I do this change, I hit enter and I'm going to click on that formula that works on top and I'm going to drag it down again. And this time, see, it works. Because now we use what we call absolute cell reference. So this D2 is a relative cell reference, meaning when we drag, it moves in the direction we drag. Now this G3 is absolute cell reference. That is never going to move. It's always going to become G3. So now when we drag this formula down, because D2 is relative, it's going to move from D2 to D3. But G3 is absolute, so it's going to stay G3 all the time. So let's just check and verify that. See, D3 moved down, but G3 is absolute. It's always G3. Go back to the next one. Again, the same thing, the same thing, the same, and so it goes. Let me add another column here. I'm going to copy the formatting over again. So this is going to be total after discount. So this doesn't fit and I don't want to make the column wider. I just want to make this fit. So because I'm zoomed in, half of my tools are here under more. I'm going to click here and here I'm going to find text wrapping option and use wrap. So now I want my total after discount. Now one way I could do that, I could say equals this D2 minus this E2, which is my discount. But I don't want to do that. I want to create a formula that's not connected to this discount cell because I want to delete this column after I'm done with this formula. I don't want to see how much the discount is. I just want to see how much is my total after discount. So actually I'm going to go back and retype this formula just to expand on this idea. E2. So D2 minus E2. That gives me my total after discount. But I don't want to use this discount cell because I'm planning to delete this column. So what I'm going to do, instead of typing E2 in this formula, I'm going to replace it with the formula that's inside of that E2 cell. I'm going to hit enter here. I'm going to go back to this discount. And this is the formula that's inside of that E2 cell. So I'm going to copy this formula, but I'm not copying the first equal sign because the first equal sign starts the formula. What follows that equal sign is the actual formula. So I'm going to copy that, hit escape, go back to this total after discount, and I'm going to replace this E2 with the formula that's in that E2 cell. I'm going to delete that and paste what I had. My new formula, see, doesn't refer to E anywhere. So I'm going to hit enter. And then I can now delete this column. And if I drag it down, it will work just fine. So this is my total after discount. So essentially my formula is, let's take this 5,600, which is D2, minus 5% of 5,600, which is here. Now, because of order of operations, the first thing that's going to happen here, it's going to do multiplication, which is going to get us the discount. And then it's going to take this D2 minus that discount to get us the total. And then we can drag this down and get our formula copied. Now, that's one way to write this formula. Another way to write this formula is this. I'm going to take my D2, which is my 5,600, and I'm going to multiply that by, and I'm going to open and close parentheses. And in my parentheses, I'm going to do 1 minus this percentage, which is G3. So the idea is going to be, let's just multiply this 5,600 by 95%. So if this is 5%, that's the discount. We have to pay 95% of the total price, right? After 5% discount. So 1 is our 100%. So this is similar to saying 100% here. And by the way, you could do that as well. Oops. Let me fix that. 100%. And if I do this, that works. So what I'm saying, we have 100%. We're going to do minus 5%. And that's going to get us to 95%. And then we're going to multiply this by 95%. Now, I don't want to write 100% here, although you could. I'm just going to write 1, which again is 100%. Because if you remember, when I was looking at the cell as a number, it's 0.05. So if I take 1 minus 0.05, I'm going to get 0.95, which is that 95%. Let's put that formatting back. And now I need to drag this formula down to make it work. Now again, if I drag this formula just like this, it's not going to work. See, we got the same total. Now the reason it doesn't work, again, is because, see, I'm using relative cell reference for G3, which means G3 is going to move down to this empty cells. So I want to add those dollar signs to this G3. Now I can go and manually add those dollar signs, or a faster way to get this dollar signs in, you just press F4 key on your keyboard. So if you do that, it will add those dollar signs for you. You can manually add them, or you can use the shortcut. It's really the same. Doesn't make it any better. So I'm going to hit enter, drag it down, and now this formula works. All right, so now I'm going to calculate how much is all of this combined. So I'll go here and type total. We'll make it look like this. Good. And the total should look like this. The formatting is good. Nah, maybe that was not the best formatting to choose from. I'm just going to do my old borders from here. That's fine. So now I'll do my total for all of these. So I'm going to do equals sum, my function. So I need that sum to go. And by the way, this sometimes will get on the way. So you can click on this minimize to get it out of the way so you don't have to look at it. And then you can maximize it again by clicking on this icon and then click to close. And by the way, the shortcut, as you can tell, it's F1, the shortcut to do this minimize, maximize. But anyway, so I'm going to do from here, that's E2. And then I'm going to do colon. And then the end is E6. And E6, perfect. I'm going to close parentheses and hit enter. Okay, I'm going to add a column now here. And again, we'll make it look like this. And what I want to do, I want to calculate in this column % of total. And what I mean by that is I want to know what percentage in the total is my cell phone total. So compared to this total, which is 15,438, what percentage is 5,320? So to do that, you have to take that number, which is E2 in this case, and you have to divide it by the total. So that's E8. I hit enter, and see, I'm getting a 0. That doesn't make any sense now, does it? But what I should understand is that this should give me a percentage. So if I highlight this number, see, it gives me the actual number, which is 0.3446. But because of formatting, we're losing that because we didn't do enough decimal points for this. So if I increase some decimal points, see, I'm going to see what's actually in that cell. And that's 0.34, which is by percentage about 34%. So I'm going to just format this as percentage. And that's 34%. So we know cell phones are 34% of our total for everything. Now again, I want to drag this down and see how much are all of these in that grand total. And see, I'm getting this division by 0 error. So why am I getting that? So let's get back to this. See again, let's think about this formula. So when we're dragging this one down, E2 is going to move to E3. E8 is going to move to E9. So we're going to end up dividing this number, that's 4,400 something, by this blank cell below. And blank is treated as 0. So we divide by 0, and you're not allowed to divide by 0. So we get division by 0 error. But what we really wanted in this cell, we wanted to take this number and divide by this total again. That should have been E8 all over again. So I'm going to hit escape, go back. So we want to make sure this E8 stays E8 even if we move this formula down. So that means we need to do absolute cell reference, or what we call locking a cell, same thing for this. So that means $E, $8, or a quicker way, you just do F4. That will do $E, $8. I hit enter, go back, click on this formula, and drag that formula down. And now if I check, see, it's dividing this number by the same total because we locked this cell. So now we get what percentage is this of the total. So if we add all these percentages together, all together should be 100%. Equals sum. And see, it figured out what I was trying to do. F2 colon F8. Perfect. It's good enough for me. And by the way, I did that by using tab key, right? So if I do equals sum, and see, it's suggesting me this. If I like it, I hit tab. That's perfect. I hit enter. That's 100%. Very nice. So I'm going to make this formatted nicely. And that's a little bit more about cell referencing. So keep in mind, when you drag a formula, your references move in the direction you move. Which means, again, just to refresh your memory, if I had these two numbers, 4 and 5, and I take this number and I add this number to it, if I take that and drag it down, see, it's going to move, C11 is going to move to this cell below, and D11 is going to move to this cell below. So it's going to be C12, D12 in here. C12 and D12. And as you can see, it's 0 because we're adding 0 to 0. We're getting a 0. If I move that formula up, all the cell references are moving now up. So it's going to go one up from here. So that's C10. And this is going to go one up. So that's D10. So again, C10 plus D10, 0 plus 0 is 0. If I drag this right, what's going to happen? So if I'm dragging this formula right, again, my cell references are going to move going right. So if this is C11, moving one right, it's going to make it D11. And if this is D11, moving D11 one right is going to move it to E11. So if we move this formula one right, our formula is going to become D11, E11, because we're moving our references one right. So there it is, D11, E11. So we'll end up adding this number to this number. And then this number to this number. So that could be useful sometimes if you're trying to create some pattern of numbers. So let's say I have 5, and then I want to go 10, 15, 20. Now, one way you can do this, you can use autofill for this, right? You can highlight these two numbers and drag it down, and it's just gonna continue the pattern. However, this is not a formula. This is just numbers in the cell. Now, I'm gonna do the same thing with a formula. So instead of doing after 5, 10, I'm going to say this cell below equals to this cell, which is B10, this cell, B10, and I'm gonna add 5 to that B10. So 5 plus to B10 is 10. Now, if I take this formula now and drag, it's gonna go and continue this pattern. And the reason it does that is because, see, this B10 plus 5, 5 plus 5 is 10. Now, if I drag this one down, B10 is gonna move to B11. And B11 is the current cell that I'm in, which gives me 10. So if I take 10 plus 5, that's 15. And then it's going to keep moving like that, and we're going to get that pattern. Okay, I'm going to clean this up, and that should be enough for this video. In the next video, we'll talk about mixed cell references and see what you can do with those. But for this, it's enough. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.